Rey Rivera is only 32 when he vanishes into thin air on May 16, 2006. But fast forward about a week and he's found dead at Baltimore's historic Belvedere Hotel. Now, the police call it a probable suicide, but hold on a second because there's a whole lot of bizarre evidence that just might make you think twice. Let's recap. Okay. Let's set the scene. To you and me, it looks like Rey Rivera is living the dream with his longtime love and new wife of 6 months, Allison. Just 2 years earlier, in 2004, the couple relocated from Los Angeles to Baltimore so Rey could take a job as the editor and videographer at the Rebound Report, a financial newsletter published by Stansberry and Associates, started by Rey's longtime pal, Porter Stansberry. Now, these two are thick as thieves, and together they're dishing out stock tips under the umbrella of Agora. That's a corporation that owns Stansberry plus a bunch of other companies in Baltimore's Mount Vernon neighborhood. Quite the busy life, right? But as we dig deeper, things might not be as straightforward as they seem. See, Rey's not happy at work. He wants to get back into filmmaking, screenwriting, to be specific. So he and Allison are planning to move back to Los Angeles. That is his life on Tuesday, May 16th, 2006. It's around 6:30 p.m. and things are about to get weird. Well, Rey's at home when suddenly his cell phone rings. According to a house guest, he picks it up, he blurts out, "Oh shit," and he bolts out the back door like he's super late for something really important. He grabs his wife's car keys, she's out of town on a business trip in Richmond, Virginia, and zips away. But here's where it gets crazier. He comes racing back to the house not long after that, only to dash out again. But he leaves the lights and the computer on in his office like he's planning to jump back into work again. So what's so urgent that he has to rush out? Girl, that's the million-dollar question. Okay, so here's where the plot thickens. Allison's been trying to reach him all day, but no luck. His phone might as well be a brick. By 10 p.m., she's really starting to wonder where he is, so she calls up their house guest hoping for some clue. But she's like, "No, I haven't seen him since he dashed out earlier." At that point, Allison's thinking, well, he seems a little preoccupied lately. He's probably just out blowing off some steam. Maybe he's having a few drinks. But when morning rolls around and there's still no sign of him, worry starts creeping in. She spends the whole next day on the phone, just ringing up everyone, friends, family, you name it, trying to track Rey down. Finally, at about 3 p.m. on May 17th, she files a missing persons report. Fast forward to May 23rd, and bam, Allison's car pops up in a parking lot in Mount Vernon, the neighborhood where Rey works. A parking ticket tells us the car did not budge from that spot for 6 whole days. Yeah, just sitting there, collecting dust, raising all kinds of questions. And the very next day, that's when they find him. A few employees from his office are up on the top floor of a parking garage near their building when something catches their eye. A mysterious hole in the roof of the Belvedere Hotel right next door. You could just imagine them leaning over the edge, peering down, going, what on earth happened there? Well, here's what happened there. Rey's body crashed through the roof, and he had been lying in an abandoned conference room on the 2nd floor for days. It's as eerie as it sounds. The Belvedere Hotel has been around since the early 1900s, and this place has seen more than its fair share of dark days. We're talking a lineup of tragic events, including a chilling number of suicides. Fast forward to recent times, and the old hotel has gotten a facelift, transformed into a condo building. But there are still some areas, restaurants, bars, observation deck, open to the public. So police pieced together a chilling scenario. Rey took a leap from 14 stories up, plummeted straight through a 2nd-story roof, and ended up on the floor of that empty meeting room. But, how? Access doors are locked. Hotel cameras didn't pick Rey up in any of the public areas that day, so how would he have gotten up to the roof? And get this, the coroner didn't sign off on it either. He has a laundry list of injuries: fractured ribs, punctured lungs, deep lacerations. But here's where it gets really twisted. The way Rey's shins are broken doesn't line up with the story of a jump like that. The official cause of death, undetermined. With every new twist, the story leaves more questions than answers, but you haven't even heard the really weird stuff yet. For one thing, it's not easy to make that jump Because of the way the hotel roof is designed, there are only 3 places where someone could take a leap: the very top roof, the parking garage, and the 11th floor ledge. Now, the detectives ruled out the parking garage because the angle to them just didn't add up. And the 11th floor, well, that's a possibility only if he managed to go through a room or an office. And guess what? There were 0 sightings of him, no reports of any break-ins. To make a jump from the top roof, you'd need a running start to hit that lower roof, which brings us to a few more creepy details. Rey, a guy who was actually afraid of heights and wearing flip-flops, is supposed to have sprinted, taken a leap off the roof, and somehow made it across a 45-foot gap to reach that hole. Seriously, think about it. Running and jumping that distance in flip-flops and with a fear of heights? That sounds impossible. Something's definitely not adding up here, especially when you hear this next detail. His flip-flops were found next to the hole in the roof, one broken and one with fresh drag marks. His phone and glasses were nearby, completely intact, not broken, like you'd think they would be after a 14-story fall. And also, how did they get next to the hole? Like he pauses in midair, puts him down on the hole, and then continues through? It's crazy. Now, you'd think security footage would help clear this up, right? But hold on to your hat. On that very day, the rooftop cameras were down. Yeah, but they're working just fine the day before, and they snap back to life the day after. But on that crucial day, nothing. But here's another kicker in this mystery. Rey's money clip is missing. Now, this wasn't just any money clip. This was a special engraved gift from Allison, a token from their wedding. He always carried it with him, always. But now, everyone's frantically demanding answers, looking for clues to explain what happened. Now, rewind to the last time Rey was seen alive. He picked up that mysterious phone call, and then he was out the door in a flash. Well, that call, it was traced back to the switchboard of Stansberry and Associates. But who was on the other end? That's the million-dollar question. They don't know because it could only be traced as far as the switchboard. Now, Porter Stansberry, the big boss, claims that everyone who might have needed to speak with Rey was out on a corporate retreat that day. But hold on. Let's dig a little deeper into Stansberry and Associates. Back in 2002, before Rey joined up with them, this company was in hot water for dishing out fraudulent investment advice, and they got slapped with a lawsuit by the Securities and Exchange Commission. A big part of Rey's gig was to help scrub clean the Stansberry name. At least that's what Allison says. And the year after Rey's death, they're found guilty of security fraud and hit with a hefty $1.5 million fine. Now, it's been said that Stansberry put a gag order on its employees to stop them talking about Rey or they'd lose their jobs. But Porter says that's not true. But we'll just leave it there for now. And we're going to get back to our mystery, but we're going to come back to that. Now, let's talk timing because it's a bit odd. Like everything else in this case, it's odd. Rey had just booked office space for the weekend after he vanished. He was all set to edit footage from a corporate event he'd filmed. But here's the kicker. Something had been gnawing at him for at least 2 weeks before his death, but he kept his lips sealed about whatever it was. The guy was clearly spooked by something. Let's rewind to the night before he disappeared. Now picture this. It's 1 a.m. and the Rivera's house alarm screams into the night. What does Rey do? He grabs a bat and sprints outside. Allison said that the fear in his eyes stopped her own heart. Something was definitely scaring him. The cops chalked up that alarm to a squirrel, which is okay. But then the very next day, the alarm blares again, and this time a window looks like it's been messed with. Someone trying to break in? There was also an encounter with a mystery man at a park. Allison says it left Rey shaken. So you tell me, does all that sound like a simple case of nerves, or is there more to this story? Which brings us to the number one weird thing about this case, the note. Now, this isn't just any goodbye cruel world note. The note is typed in tiny print, 7-point print, on one sheet of paper, folded up in plastic, taped behind his computer screen at home, along with a blank check. It begins like this.
Brothers and sisters, right now, around the world volcanoes are erupting. What an awesome sight. Whom virtue unites, death will not separate.
Apparently, that last part is a Masonic phrase. Now, hold that thought because we're going to come back to the Masons, but for now, I want you to hear more about this weird letter. The whole thing isn't available online, but Newsweek published some excerpts. Take a listen.
I'd like to welcome those who accepted our invitations for membership during the game. We couldn't have done it without you.
And this one?
I took on the endeavor to find the truth, but not for its own sake. In accepting this quest for the truth, I hope to make myself, with the help of others, into a man worthy and ready to receive it.
And this?
Members of the council, please note that I will lend careful concentration to the traditional responsibilities. In light of those proceedings, I will satisfy the standard request of this council within the appropriate time.
Wild, right? The whole thing is so wild. It's so baffling. The investigators themselves don't just shrug it off. They're like, this is crazy, but it's probably suicide, but we don't know. There's so many weird things. So they send that letter straight to the FBI. And what do the feds say? It's not a suicide note. Not one like any they've ever seen. Now get this. Ray made a list of people he knew in this note, but here's the odd part. Allison points out that he left off several key folks. Strange, right? He also throws in this quirky request to make them 5 years younger, and that's not all. He jots down a list of movies, books, music that really moved him. Things like Meet Joe Black, Minority Report, The Bourne Identity, Lord of the Rings. Big hits, right? But Ray didn't stop there. He name dropped some heavy hitters in the film world, too. Think Stanley Kubrick, M. Night Shyamalan? You know who I'm talking about. And even the legendary Christopher Reeve. Now listen to the next thing he says. This sparked a lot of internet buzz.
That was a well-played game. Congratulations to all who participated. But it was time to wake up. I stand before you a man who understands the purpose and value of our secrets. That's why I cherish them as secrets. Life is a test to see if you can control your spirit. Take care and enjoy the festivities.
The line, well-played game, got people thinking. So a Reddit user was one of the first to post a theory about a connection between his death and the movie The Game. So if you haven't seen it, if you haven't, you should. In the movie, Michael Douglas plays this rich San Francisco banker who's invited to play this mysterious game, which turns his whole life upside down, and he starts to question if it's actually a conspiracy to destroy him. At the end of the movie, he, wait for it, jumps off a hotel roof and crashes through a lower roof. Right? It's like, it just happened. So, what are the chances something as crazy as that was really going on in Ray's real life? Well, I mean, if you ask Allison, she'd say, no, not likely. And she has poured over that note for hours of her life, right? I mean, God knows. But she's not buying into the game movie theory. See, Ray's a writer. He's that guy scribbling away in journals, jotting down whatever pops into his head. That note could be movie ideas, character sketches, you name it. But if so, why stash it all away in teeny tiny print on a folded note behind his computer with a check? I mean, the blank check actually is the one thing to me that points to suicide, but you let me know. But, I mean, what is the deal with this? But I promise we get back to that first phrase on the note. Whom virtue unites, death will not separate. It's connected to the Freemasons, which has got to be the creepiest, weirdest, most well-publicized secret society ever. And Ray apparently wants to join. All right, so here's another curious twist. On the very day that he went missing, he swings by a local Maryland lodge asking about membership. Well, the guy there doesn't think much of it. He says the chat was all standard stuff. But hold up, because there's more to Ray's Masonic curiosity than just a casual inquiry. Dig this. Just the weekend before he vanished, Ray was deep into reading The Builders, which is some serious dive into Masonry. And on that fateful day, he heads to a bookstore and picks up Freemasons for Dummies, which is kind of funny. But, I mean, what the? It looks like Ray was on a real quest for knowledge. But why? And is there any connection between all these bizarre details and his death? I mean, his family thinks so. The way they see it, Ray was taken out because he knew too much. And are you still like, oh, girl, I don't believe it? All right, I got you. Hold that thought. We've got one last detail that you should know. So when Allison heads over to the police station to pick up Ray's things, the detectives drop this bombshell. Someone, some mysterious someone, has been calling. Not just once, but a couple of times, itching to get their hands on Ray's computers. They were super eager, always asking when they'd be released. Now, Allison, seriously spooked by this. Who is this mystery caller? Why the intense interest in Ray's computers? And that brings us to the most widespread theory. Did someone lose a bunch of money thanks to the investment newsletter that Ray edited? What do you think? Does this smell like murder to you? Could there be crucial clues on that computer that only someone who is the killer would know? I don't know. Jump into the comments. Let me know your thoughts. And hey, if you like getting all the crime in half the time, it would mean so much to us if you gave this a like, hit subscribe, and don't forget to share this with your friends. Let's keep it up. Watch another recap right now. See you soon.